I'm going to be talking about a witch.
No.
Yeah.
On a broomstick? Big nose? Hat?
Mole on her nose. She goes, heh, 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 heh.
Yeah, that's her. You got her?
We got her, boys. You can all let your fat children go play in the woods again. We're safe. They're just fodder for regular child molesters. Don't worry. They won't get eaten. Well, they might get eaten.
Start.
In a town where for some reason we can't even become the official podcast of Los Angeles, once upon a time, the city had an official witch of Los Angeles. And her name was Louise Huebner.
Are those bats?
Yeah. Those are bats that forgot how to use sonar.
That sounds like someone taking a buckshot trying to hit a bat.
It's bat hunting season.
And the rifleman's also blind. Go ahead.
This mysterious woman was born in 1931, as she puts it, as a 6th-generation witch and a 3rd-generation astrologer. But as some put it, a 1st-generation phony baloney. There isn't much out there about Huebner's childhood other than that at age 2 she started doing psychic readings, and at age 9 she started a newspaper filled with gossip about her neighbors that she gathered from spying on all of them. And at age 10 she started doing palm readings at children's carnivals.
Sounds like grifter. Like a common grifter.
You're just asking for a hex. Whether or not this was going on in LA or whatever town something wicked this way took place in, I don't know. But by the time she was a little older, she was supernaturaling right here in Los Angeles, the city of angels.
Oh no.
They couldn't stand for that. Not in this city. She loves me.
She protects me against witches.
The city, she's unholy. The city, I must stuff garlic down her throat. In 1965, she began a 4-year run as the resident mystic on the KLAC radio station, which now is the AM 570 radio, home of the Doyers. On this, she did psychic readings over the air, and once every 2 hours, totaling 12 times a day, they aired taped segments of hers giving out that day's astrology readings. So she really started out on the radio as a sort of high-profile strip mall psychic. That she's like Mystic Frasier, which is my favorite romantic comedy.
Yeah.
She was so present. She was just everywhere all the time. So she became a sort of local celebrity and started being a guest on a lot of shows on KTTV, which is now Channel 11. She'd show up on a lot of talk shows dressed in all black and with her pet beetle Sandoz.
Pet beetle?
Pet beetle. You didn't have one?
Nah, I didn't have one. I wasn't affluent or mystic enough.
You didn't buy into Beatlemania? The second? The very literal wave of Beatlemania?
It was also a real wave. Washed all the Beatles away.
Being on TV lent her a little bit of prestige, and soon she was doing psychic readings for elected officials and celebrities all over the city. She claimed that she predicted not only JFK's assassination, but also RFK's assassination. Wow. Listen to The Warm California Gun, or you will be assassinated. And she also claimed she predicted Johnson's decision to not run for re-election. Listen to March Madness.
That's right.
You can read the signs. She also claims to have predicted the Watts riot, but who didn't? We all saw that. We were all psychics for a week.
Something bad's gonna happen.
Why do the Beatles keep running away? Ringo, why don't you want to go to South Central? Ringo.
Stuart Sutcliffe, where are you going?
Sometimes she was even called in to help solve crimes.
Really?
Yeah.
When they ran out of a detective was taking a lunch break?
When they couldn't get a dog to try to solve the crime, they called her in instead.
The dog's taking a nap.
We can't wake him up.
He's too cute sleeping.
We couldn't bear to do it. Call the witch. But more so than just a radio era Miss Cleo, Huebner was more of a sex-driven self-help mantra? Is it mantra or mantra?
Mantra.
A Mothra guru of 60s and 70s LA, of which there were many of these people around. She was a big proponent of orgies, and most of her workings were sex-related.
Okay.
If you heard a thud after I said that, excuse me, but I certainly burst my britches reading that sentence. She was also very involved in the community. She used her witching powers of organization to help plan several city events, such as a birthday party for LA that lasted 18 hours with Coca-Cola giving them free soda.
Wow.
The Butchers Union gave them free hot dogs, and Van de Kamp's gave them a keg big enough to feed 10,000 people.
Oh my God.
And the Beatles got to it. They left it out too long. It was Beatlemania on that cake. She gave 8 months of her own volunteer time to plan all of this, just like 8 months of her life just for free doing this. Now she had a good reputation with the city, even though she was a self-proclaimed witch.
That was a business card she had.
Yeah, witch. I'm a witch, I'm a lover, I'm a child, I'm a lover again.
Because she was so into sex.
I love many at once. Even being a witch, that was actually more of an appeal for the city. 6 months after this spoiled child birthday party for the city of Los Angeles, the LA Department of Parks and Recreation decided they could take advantage and asked her to help plan a series of concerts they had coming up at the Hollywood Bowl.
Oh, cool.
It was for 12 summer concerts over 12 Sunday afternoons at the Hollywood Bowl, masterfully named 12 Summer Sunday Concerts at the Hollywood Bowl.
Jesus Christ. Christ.
A very literal time in our country. The first concert in the lineup was called Folklore Day, and the idea of that was very appealing to Huebner, and she came up with a marketing gimmick that for the show, she would be made the official witch of Los Angeles County and would cast a spell on the entire audience in attendance.
Don't give her a reason or the power.
Yeah, well, the city apparently has never read a single fairy tale, and they thought, this is a great idea. Can she get rid of our rats, too?
Here's all the children. Do you need them for something?
There's a cave over there. What do you want to do? So on June 21st, 1968, at a special ceremony at the Hollywood Bowl, she was made cultural chairman of the 14th District by Councilman Arthur Snyder, and also presented with the certificate officially by city law, anointing her the official witch of Los Angeles County.
What's happening?
She signed it in virgin blood. A puff of black smoke went up.
It was weird. All these church burnings were that day, too. I don't understand.
And that's how the Capitol Records building was formed. She turned the mayor into it because he looked at her wrong. So this document, it had the county seal on it and was signed by the chairman of the board of county supervisors, Ernest Debs. This made LA the only city in the world to have had an official witch.
It's just us?
Ever. Like, no one has had... Who would have an official witch?
Maybe like a bad town in like 1840.
Yeah, Los Angeles. The certificate read, this certifies that Louise Huebner has been designated as the official witch of Los Angeles County by virtue of her supernatural powers, and is officially assigned to reign over Folk Day at the Hollywood Bowl on July 21st, 1968, at which time she may be depended upon...
According to which time, you're ready.
At which time she may be depended upon to cast a spell over all of Los Angeles County.
Wow. That was like signed by somebody.
Yeah, it was signed by very official people. And then she cackled, turned the councilman into a toad, and ate a baby. And then it came time for the actual spell she was depended upon to cast. What she decided to do is called a spell cast. It was the first podcast all about witchy things. A spell cast is when a bunch of witches come together to cast a huge spell over a large amount of people.
And this was okay.
Yeah, what's wrong? It's the 60s.
We're looking for like a new thing, you know? Like a new thing.
Like possession.
Like mass possession.
I don't want to be possessed by anyone except Satan. To help her in this giant spell, Huebner got a coven of witches to pool their powers. She also got Lori's Steakhouse to donate the salt and garlic they needed.
The worst witch of them all.
And the LA Zoo loaned a bunch of iguanas to put on stage for atmosphere, but apparently the iguanas were so ugly, they sent them back to the zoo, but it was so hot that one of them died on the way back.
I feel like always I'm an iguana at the Hollywood Bowl. Like, no, I thought this was a good idea, but they're so ugly.
Send me a handsome iguana.
One who has confidence.
A lizard that you could take to prom.
You know what? We just get us a dog.
The stage was all set, but what was the spell going to be? Huebner being Huebner, she decided it would be a fertility spell to increase John Cleese.
He's a witch.
He was in that Harry Potter movie. It must be true. A fertility spell to increase and sustain the sexual vitality of Los Angeles. Again, this was all just really clever marketing because, as we know, sex spells sells. So then came the show. 11,000 people showed up. Everyone was given some chalk, red candles, and garlic. Yeah. Wow. Yeah, a red candle. Believe it.
Are there photos of this?
No, you can't capture a witch on film.
Nah, just floating candles everywhere. That's like the Haunted Mansion.
She gave Chairman Debs, the guy who had signed her certificate, she gave him a golden horn to personally ensure his own sexual virility.
California in the 60s, they were not kidding.
No, everything was just golden idols and orgies.
And your aura.
Orgies. So the witches in the crowd, they all chanted, light the flame, bright the fire, red is the color of desire. And the spell was cast. This was the first time in the history of witchcraft that such a big spell covering such a large area and involving so many people to cast was ever done. Like, this is the biggest spell ever casted. Side note, when the spell was cast, there were only 78 cities in LA County. There are now 88. So if anyone wants to do some population tests to see if the new 10 are less fertile, we give you permission to knock yourselves out and up. This stunt sent the Huebner brand even higher into the witchosphere. In 1969, she released both a book called Power Through Witchcraft and a spoken word album called Seduction Through Witchcraft, which was released by Warner Music and was sampled in some David Bowie bootleg recordings. The album was also produced by Bibi and Louise Barron, who were early electronic music makers who had done the score for the movie Forbidden Planet, which was the first entirely electronic film score ever. In 1970, she was invited to Salem, Massachusetts in an effort by the mayor to ask forgiveness for what happened to witches in that town in colonial times.
If she went, she's a dummy, because that's an ambush.
Just get up there, stand on on this. We got you a new podium.
It's so dark. Someone light the way.
You know those standing cars people like? Go stand on that standing podium. So she went there and she was presented with a broom engraved with the words, "May your ride be long and enjoyable."
I thought the 60s was a turbulent time where they didn't mess around.
This was all done unironically. This is the struggle no one talks about. Where's their Martin Luther King?
They burned her a long time ago.
Martin Luther Sorcerer.
Stop.
Also in 1970, she released a new book called Never Strike a Happy Medium. She loved it. It was released on Witch Time. She was also on The Tonight Show with Johnny Carson.
Really?
In all, she ended up having written 2 books, released 1 album, and was part of a second album called Occult Explosion, wrote several mini books for the Hallmark Company, and she was in around 350 magazine and newspaper articles and on over 300 TV shows, movies, and documentary. This was all according to her, at least. But she was still a concubine of Satan, so not everything went quite her way. With her rising star inside of a circle came some pushback from the City of Angels. Obviously,
I was waiting for that.
when will they fight back? When will good triumph? When will I stop being so horny?
I mean, they have day and night.
When will this curse be lifted? I mean, I can only give so much. Obviously, Huebner was good at marketing, so when it came time for her to release her books and album, how could she not use her title as the official witch of Los Angeles to help boost sales?
Yeah.
The problem was her books and album were of a very sexual nature.
Yes, they were.
And the city didn't want their name attached to anything like that, so the guy who had given her that title, Chairman Debs, said that the title was meant to be for only that one day that she was to cast the spell at the bowl, and told her to stop. But nobody stops a witch.
No.
Huebner said that she worked for months for free to help plan not just the Hollywood Bowl stuff, but other city events, and the only compensation she got for it was that certificate naming her the Supreme Witch. So why not just let her use it to try to make some money for herself? Debs insisted that surely you understand that this scroll was purely ceremonial and for publicity for that performance at the Hollywood Bowl, and you have to stop. Huebner did not take it so lightly and insisted on keeping the title and that it was legally binding.
By which law?
Witchigation. The people versus, I can't even think of it. Who's a famous witch? There's no famous witches.
Stevie Nicks.
So the city hit her with a cease and desist order, but she responded that she never claimed to have been employed by the county, just that she was the official witch of the county, and that if, here's her quote, "If Supervisor Debs persists in asking the Department of Parks and Recreation to unload me, that will only create bad feelings in me, and I will be forced through an act of pride to take back the Los Angeles County spell for increased sexual vitality." She went even further to say that if Debs wanted her title back, she wants back the magical golden horn that was meant to ensure his romantic vitality. In the end, they let her keep the title. They want to make it seem like, but my virility.
Yeah.
It seems like they let her keep the title because revoking it would have opened up a whole can of worms on all the other official titles the city had given out over the previous 200 years. Like, oh, you're the official gold miner. Like, but the industrious witch she was, Huebner held a press conference for international media outlets to tell them this story, and in doing so, her name got spread all over the world.
Well played.
Marketing maven. However, this was around the same general time as the Manson murders, so the story quickly got brushed aside into oblivion because newspapers and magazines didn't want to run a story sympathetic to a witch in the middle of helter-skelter piggy murders.
Especially like the Manson family, which was just about free sex, and here's like, oh, everyone should be virile. Like, no, not right now. Stop it.
Not at this time.
Too much sex.
She also faced some blowback from Wiccans because they were embarrassed by Huebner because she wasn't Wiccan, she was a witch, but people still associated her with them, and they felt she was perpetuating negative stereotypes of witches.
Don't you want negative stereotypes if you're a witch? I'm sorry.
No, I mean, Wiccans are just like, I understand.
Cunning women, or whatever the term for a good witch is. What is it?
Glindas. But still, she kept on going. She did lectures at colleges. She was the founder of several societies, such as the Society of Professional Astrologers, Mount Washington Poets and Artists Backyard Conservancy, and started doing miracle circles, which involved gathering a large group of people to harness their psychic powers to make a miracle happen. She also started Magic Circle International, which counted 4,000 witches all across the country as members, making it the largest coven in the United States. In 1977, the Angels, of all teams, of course, the baseball team, that is, they were in a slump and supposedly cursed, so they called in Huebner, who gave Magic Circle medals to the players, their general manager, and their owner, Gene Autry. The team... What do I do with this?
Los Angeles is an odd place.
Gene Autry is going to a witch to get his baseball team to win games. That sums up Los Angeles.
Somebody needs to go make Fatty Arbuckle more horny so he could win some baseball games.
Somebody needs to go stop Griffith J. Griffith from shooting his wife to appease the Pope because we need to get more oil. Does that all make sense? So after she gave him these medals, the team then won 6 games in a row, but then she revoked the spell because she said the players were being insulting and, quote, I felt I shouldn't have used the energy of the magic circle because the angels were not sincere and honest, which sounds like that was the last thing Satan said before he left heaven.
This is stupid. You guys are messing with me. What are you gonna do, fall down?
Whoa! I fell too far. I had a joke here also, which sounds like either a line from a Charlie Brown special or something every witch in history has said. Huebner also had a family. She had a husband and a twin boy and a girl and her third son, and towards the end of her days, she was running an antique shop called Mini Mall Antiques and Collectibles in Pasadena. We should talk about her husband just a little bit because behind every great witch, there is an equally greater warlock. Equally great warlock. Yes. Equality. Her husband's name was Mentor Huebner, which confused me to no end to realize that was a person's name. I thought
it wasn't a title.
I thought that was that's what they call Louis Huebner, Mentor Huebner. So her husband, Mentor Huebner, he was a very accomplished artist and designer who seems to have been responsible for most things we like on this podcast.
Really?
He worked on a lot of movies doing production design and storyboards, many times uncredited. Some of the movies he had a major influence on: Dune. Planet of the Apes, Blade Runner, Forbidden Planet, The Thing, The Land of the Lost TV show, the 1976 King Kong, Fiddler on the Roof, The Longest Day, The Time Machine, North by Northwest, Ben-Hur, Quo Vadis, and The Addams Family.
Wow, really?
Yeah. He also did 50 one-man shows and designed 10 theme parks, including France and Japan's Disneyland. He also taught at Chouinard's Art School for 20 years.
Really?
Louise became Mentor's manager in 1980, but when he died on March 19th, 2001, she spent much of her time trying to promote and preserve his legacy until she herself died in 2014. Or did she? She did.
I checked.
I dug her up. She's in there.
She's buried in a cauldron, but she is dead.
Boy, that's not a memory I will be able to forget. But you're welcome, listeners. She's in there.
I am cursed by the memory of that now.